Hello everybody. We will be doing another build video today. You might have seen that a couple weeks ago, Update 81 released. With it came Terror of Demogorgon, the new expansion, bunch of awesome new items. We're getting a new quest tomorrow, raid coming later in September, and with the level cap increase, of course, comes new feats. Now, I made my video reviewing the patch notes, and I talked about the feats. I had little mania videos talking about the feats, and there was one feat that really stood out from the others. Surprisingly, it wasn't the ranged getting 40 more range power, because ranged DPS is very underpowered and needed to be buffed. No, I was referring to the Strength of Arms and Legendary Strength of Arms feats. Now, these feats give temp HP when you hit enemies equal to your melee power for the Strength of Arms and double your melee power for Legendary Strength of Arms, and those temp HP stack. And that got me thinking, how good are these feats both for leveling but also for endgame? So that meant that I had to play a melee build, because those feats only work on melee. So because of that, I needed to make a melee build that would perform. And also with the release of Terror of Demogorgon came the new race Duergar, and I decided that for this melee build to test out the feats, I would play a Duergar. Now, Duergar is a very interesting race. It gives a bunch of bonuses to hit and damage with a select set of weapon types, hammers, picks, dwarven war axes, yada yada. And one of the things in the racial tree really stood out to me. What stood out to me was in Tier 4, you can take +1 competence bonus to critical threat range with dwarven war axes or warhammers and heavy picks. Now, obviously, heavy picks are not a good endgame weapon type, so we're just going to ignore that. And dwarven war axes, while decent, are not the highest single target DPS, so that leaves me with warhammers. Warhammers also have a very big advantage in that Audion exists. Audion is the warhammer out of Den of Vipers, and it is arguably the best weapon in all of DDO. That's how strong it is. It's tied with Clatter for being the best weapon, at least in my opinion. And that means that I can use Audion in the build, which would help a lot with the endgame damage. And I will get more into Audion when we look at the gear later, but for now, just know that warhammers are a very powerful weapon type. And that the fact that you get the crit range in the Duergar racial tree means that I could play a build or a class that doesn't get critical threat range and only gets critical multiplier. And there's two enhancer trees in the game that give only critical damage multiplier and not threat range. Those being Dragonlord and Frenzied Berserker. I chose to play my build as a Dragonlord build, one, because I'm a certified Barbarian hater, and I think Barbarian is one of the worst classes in DDO. You heard it here first. I think Barbarian is a bad class. Yup, that's right. And I don't really need to explain why Dragonlord is good. Dragonlord is arguably the best class in the game, and because of that, now I can have my Dragonlord build with my critical multiplier and my critical threat range of Duergar with warhammers, but that's just an idea of a build. That's not a build. So I next started working on, well, what kind of melee would I play? Currently, the meta for melee is you want to be 2-weapon fighting, and you want to take as many of the Sunder abilities as possible to do animation canceling and some other shenanigans. If you know, you know. And because of that, it's also a really fun playstyle. This is a 2-weapon fighting build using as many Sunders as possible. Now, one important thing to note about the build is Dragonlord really only needs 5 or 6 levels to perform, because the most powerful thing in the tree is the Tier 5. So I could have done a bunch of different splits with Dragonlord and Duergar, and it would have worked out great. Now, what did I end up deciding on doing? Did I decide on going with Monk to get a lot of move speed and a dash? Did I go with Dragon Disciple to try to leverage the centering with Warhammers as well as the Imbue dice? Or maybe did I do Dark Hunter to try to get the sneak attack dice and improved feint? Those all crossed my mind, and I didn't do any of those. I ended up going pure Dragonlord. That's right. I am doing the ultimate sin of playing Dragonlord pure. And there is very, very good reasons for going pure. Now, there is a meta DPS melee build that is 18 Dragonlord, 1 Dark Hunter, 1 Favored Soul, I think is what it is. I don't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, that's a very similar build to mine, except instead of taking the Dragonlord capstone, it takes 2 multi-class levels. That build is probably better because that build gets access to Improved Feint. And Improved Feint is yet another animation cancel on a short cooldown, meaning that if you're good at the game and you can time it right, you can get a much faster rotation of attacks. I'm not that good at the game, so the fact that I'm missing out on another animation cancel isn't the end of the world to me, and this build performed just fine, so I'm not really concerned about it. I'm sure you can look around and find someone who has the build file for the 1811. This is not that build. But anyways, as for why pure Dragonlord instead of a split, an interesting fact about the Dragonlord capstone is while it is an AoE insta-kill that works on any sundered enemies, it actually is a sunder animation itself, meaning that with taking Slicing Blow, Hamstring, and Improved Sunder, that's 3 sunders. However, I can also use the Dragonlord capstone ability as a 4th sunder. Not only is this 4th sunder a 50% damage bonus sunder, it's also AoE, meaning that it's basically AoE hamstring and how much damage it does, which is an absolute clusterfucked amount of damage. It is such a strong ability that I'm honestly surprised that other people didn't figure this out. Yes, the 1811 is probably better, but just having basically a tactical nuke on a 20-second cooldown is so good for running around doing damage. And it's an animation cancel, so you can just flow it into your normal boss attacks like you would any other sunder. Is it the best build? Definitely not. The Dragonlord capstone is nice. It gives 12 melee power, 2 imbue dice, 2 strength, stuff like that. It's a very strong capstone. I would say you're probably better off maybe doing a monk split with this build, like a Dragon Disciple split, just get the move speed, but I mean, the build performs just fine. Well, you will see, as you can see right now, there's footage playing of various raid solos I've done on this build. Not, I might add, relatively difficult raid solos. And I'm going to be honest, if you think the raid solos I'm doing in the background aren't difficult, I would like you to please try them, because I'm guessing most of the people on those videos who commented that the raids I was soloing were easy probably have never done above hard difficulty. So, please go do it yourself, and if you can do it, I'll shut up. Just send me the video. I don't care. That's not really relevant to this build, though. But anyways, so Dragonlord Capstone, obviously good. Now, I could also play this build with Vistani Knife Fighter and Kukuris, but I'm gonna be honest, I've done a little bit too much of that. I decided to do something different. And the Warhammers with the build, I'm able to get a critical profile of 16 to 20 times 5 with a times 8 on 19 to 20, which is very strong. Another advantage of going Warhammers is since they're bludgeoning weapons, that means you don't have to worry about stone guard champs or skeletons, so that's nice. Duergar as a race also gives the highest amount of bonus hit and damage of any race in the game. It's also a strength and a con race, which are the only 2 stats you care about. So overall, the build just makes sense. It basically builds itself. Now for the secondary tree, I chose Ravager because you don't really have any other choices, but we'll get into that when we cover the enhancements. And where did my build end up? Well, I would say that this is probably the best melee build I've ever played. Part of that is because of how powerful the Terror of Demigorgon gear is, and how I'm able to fit in more of the very hard to fit in damage stats. In fact, on this build with this gear set, I get every single damage stat in the game except Quality Deception. I know, no Quality Deception, build is ruined, F tier build. I know, I don't care. The build is good enough, it is what it is. And, well, you'll see the gear set, it's hard to get, as always, but the Terror of Demogorgon gear is really, really strong. Really, honestly, questionably strong. I'm not exactly sure why it needs to be as strong as it is, but whatever, it is what it is. I would say that this build is a good choice if you're wanting to play a melee DPS at endgame that is relatively forgiving. because as a pure Dragonlord, you get 6-second wins, which allows you to break crowd control as well. You get Primal Scream. That's all you're healing, but you don't really need more. The Dragonlord tree gives a lot of defense. You get some Elemental Absorb with the element of your choice. It's an overall very well-rounded build that it makes sense I was able to solo those raids. The build was an absolute blast to play. Highly recommend it. I mean, the DPS was not as high as the Arcane Trickster build, but gonna be honest, I don't even know if I could solo, like, normal VOD on the Arcane Trickster, because I just didn't have enough defenses. So, yes, this build does significantly less damage than the Arcane Trickster, but that does not necessarily make the build bad. If anything, the only thing compared to the Arcane Trickster it loses is damage, and it is upsides in every other department. So, for the second build I'm posting like this, I would say this is a exceptional build to try. I don't think well, I'll be honest, this build does not work without Racial Completionist, because to get the +1 critical threat range with Warhammers, it's in the tier 4, the Duergar tree, and that's like the entire point of the build. So if you don't have Racial Completionist, you can't even play the entire point of the build. A slight variation of the build you could play that isn't Racial Comp would be just using Kukris and Vistani Knife Fighter, and that would be completely fine, but that's not interesting. I wanted to make an interesting melee build. And one last thing before I talk about the build itself. I have a conclusion on Legendary Strength of Arms. This might be a little bit of a hot take. I think that it is the most overpowered feat in the game until it isn't, and then it's useless. What do I mean by that? Well, the way it works is every time you hit an enemy, you get a certain amount of temp HP depending on your melee power. So that means that if you're taking less damage every 6 seconds than you get in temp HP, you are completely invincible. However, the moment you start taking more damage over time in 6 seconds than you get in temp HP, that means it's going to start eating through your temp HP and you're going to start taking actual damage. Also, this temp HP has the problem of it expires after like 10 seconds, meaning that if you're going between 2 packs of mobs, it's all going to go away. So that means that if you're going pack to pack in like an R10 or whatever, you're going to, first thing you get in the pack, you're going to have no temp HP. So that's also a problem. And depending on how much damage is coming in, the temp HP might be nothing more than an 800 point heal every 6 seconds. That's how little use it has. I mean, people on the forums are talking about like it's the most overpowered feat in the game. And I've taken this build into R10 that admittedly is probably better than every single one of those forum posters who made a forum post in that thread. It really doesn't save me in R10s. I can't solo R10 any more than I could without the feat. I mean, if anything, it means I have to heal less, and it really isn't that OP. I mean, it is and it isn't. For example, I would not have been able to solo the raids that I soloed without the feat. But that was because the incoming damage in those raids was only slightly more than the amount of temp HP that I was getting. Like, the moment I step in hard Fire of a Moorgrave, I probably would die before I even beat the first phase. That's how much more damage the boss does. Or like in Threats, same thing. I probably couldn't even get past the Marilith in hard Threats. I would just instantly vaporize, regardless of the temp HP. And Strength of Arms is a really weird feat, because on lower difficulties, it makes both good and bad builds completely invincible. I can solo damn near anything on R6 if I pay enough attention, just because the temp HP is so much. Like, obviously, I can get hit with Horrid Wilting and that'll kill me, or roll a 1 versus Disintegrate, or whatever. But realistically, that's gonna kill anyone. That's not just a me thing, and the feat isn't gonna save you. Nothing's gonna save you. You're just dead. So, yeah, for like my build on Reaper 6, it's a cakewalk almost for a lot of quests. R10? I have no chance in hell of soloing it. I mean, maybe if I was a better player, I could. I don't know if you guys know this. I've never actually soloed a single quest on R10 ever. Never once. So, this whole illusion I've been giving you guys that I'm a good player, I just broke the news. I'm not actually a good player. That was sarcasm. But no, Legendary Strength of Arms is not going to make you solo raids. Or, well, it will and it won't. But it's definitely not going to make you solo R10s. So, that was my little side tangent about Legendary Strength of Arms. Do you have any questions about that? I'd love to hear them. I might link the forum post below if you guys want to see something funny to laugh at. I don't know. It is a pretty hilarious thread. But anyways, that's all I have to say about the build right now. So I think it is time to give it over to me, and we will go in game and we will talk about the build. Do you want to play the newest meta DPS that isn't actually a meta DPS but steals all the ideas of the meta DPS builds? Well, here we are with the Duergar Pure 20 Dragonlord build. These are not my buffed stats. This is also not in Reaper because I'm in a wilderness area. But anyways, this is my Duergar Dragonlord build. And I wanted to share this build because it was a lot of fun. And I honestly think that you guys will also have a lot of fun with this build. Now, to start off, obviously this is a strength build. We are a Dragonlord. We have a strength trance. We don't need anything else. Con is nice for hit points. Everything else is irrelevant. I guess Dex and Wisdom are nice for saves. As you can see, my saves are pretty bad. So, yeah. Defensive stats. PRR, very good. MRR, I am MRR capped and I have evasion, so this is also decent. A decent amount of fortification. Double strike is at 97%. Melee power is at 349. In Reaper, with all of my buffs going that isn't prowess, I get to like 385, I think. And that's with missing a lot of Mythic and Reaper gear. You could easily get it to 400 with all the Mythic Reaper curse gear. I don't farm that stuff out. It doesn't interest me. One notable downside of this build that actually came up when I was trying to solo some raids. The AC is very low. Yes, that's right. I just made a comment about AC. AC is actually one of the most important stats for trying to solo some of the raids in the game. For example, I didn't post a video of it because I wasn't making a YouTube channel at the time. But at one point, I soloed hard VOD on a Shade Archive Swashbuckler Kukri build. That build had like 330 AC because I had a shield. And on hard VOD, Sulamati's actually misses you a decent amount. And the Devils also have a hard time hitting you. So I was able to solo it because of how much I was getting missed. I tried it on this build, and admittedly, the cap was like 32 when I did it last time. So we're 4 levels higher with a significantly better build, and I can't even solo hard VOD, not because I don't have the DPS. If I could survive it, I would do it twice as fast. No, it's because I don't have enough AC. That's the only reason. So, that's not ideal. That's definitely not ideal. And it is what it is, but don't worry about it. Skills. It don't really matter. I mean, you kind of just level up whatever you need. But, like, balance is nice to get up from trip. I have Intimidate, so I can put on my LGS Cloak Swap and Intimidate whatever, like the Hydra Heads and Den of Vipers. I put points in Search to find secret doors with an LGS Swap. I like Swim because Swim makes you move fast. Tumble, so that way you can tumble around and be faster. UMD for scrolls. I mean, you get terrible class skills as a fighter, and your skills don't matter. Feats. So, the feats for this build are a lot because it's a Dragonlord build, so you get a bunch of bonus feats. So for my Destiny feats, I took Deific Warding because for raid solos, Deific Warding is really nice because you're constantly getting hits. That's 30 PRR for 1 feat. Double Strike because you need more Double Strike. I took both Embodiment of Law and Harbinger of Chaos, even though I'm chaotic. And I will get into that when we look at the Epic Destinies, and obviously Perfect 2-weapon fighting to get the offhand Double Strike. One interesting thing to note about Deific Warding in relation to raid solos, even though I'm MRR capped, the 30 MRR from Deific Warding actually matters because the way monster MRR debuffs work, for example, Zwelinar's Whip debuff that lowers PR and MRR by 8 per stack, it does not reduce your MRR by whatever. It actually reduces your maximum amount of MRR, i.e. ignoring the cap. So this build gets like 200 MRR base, but it's capped at 130. So with Deific Warding, that means that instead of going from 130 to 122 with 1 stack of Zwelinar's debuff, I go from 130 to 130 because I have so much MRR above the cap. So that is an interesting interaction. So defect warding is actually really, really good for raid solos, even if you're capped. I don't know if this is an intended mechanic, but it is what it is. I just noticed it when I was soloing the raids, and I thought it was an interesting thing to bring up. Epic feats, Eerie Aim, you need to hit. Epic Precision, to hit and Fort Bypass, you need those both. And obviously, Legendary Strength of Arms, as I talked about earlier. Overall and Critical Stress Damage, pretty standard melee feats for epic feats. Sign of Arborea, because it's the only good legendary feat for damage. It is what it is. The only past lives I'm missing are 3 Stormsinger and 3 Mind Cleavers, so just note that. The build that's linked below has 4 inherent... No, wait, where is it? 4 universal AP. I'm stupid. I must be stupid. It's here somewhere. Well, anyways, it has 4 inherent universal APs. You only need 3. I only have 3. Just cut the point out of Harper Agent. We're 2-weapon fighting, so took all the 2-weapon fighting feats. My dark gift I took is Living Shadow because I just like Living Shadow. If you want to take the optimal feat, I would say take Touch of Pain, but I just like Living Shadow too much. It's one of my favorite feats, so that's what I like. If you can be good at the game and you don't have to rely on this, don't take it. For my fighter feats, I took Truthful One's Might for the melee power, Thoraxada's Instinct for the tactics DCs, and Vela's Might for the damage. Since we're taking all the cores in Dragonlord, these are big bonuses. I also took Weapon Specialization Bludgeoning for the 2 to damage and 2 melee power. For the martial feats, obviously we take Improved Crit Bludgeoning and Knight's Training because we're using Warhammers. I also took Hamstring, Precision, and Slicing Blow. Hamstring and Slicing Blow are Sunders. Precision is just to hit and Fort Bypass. I obviously had to take Weapon Focus Bludgeoning, so I could take Weapon Specialization Bludgeoning. As for the other feats, I took Power Attack, so I could take Cleave and Great Cleave. So that way I would have more AoE, both for leveling and endgame. Yes, I leveled this build. It leveled like breeze. This is a very fine build to level with. It's a Dragonlord. I mean, of course it levels well. And I get Improved Sunder out of my Epic Destinies. We'll get into that later. And I also took Power Critical, again, for the Epic Destinies, which we'll get into. That's my feats. I don't have any spells. So that's the character sheet. Other important stats that I would like to bring up. A lot of unconsciousness range. Critical hit damage bonus is 44. The critical hit damage, or the sneak attack damage bonus is 33. 12 sneak attack dice, 12 imbue dice. Crit multi 19 to 20 is 3. Infinity tactics DCs because we're a Dragonlord. And is there anything else important? Probably not. So, yeah, that's that. So let's just take a gander at the enhancements. Duergar. Well, take all the cores, strength. Take all the pick and hammer training. This is bonus hit and damage. Take all the size stuff. That's just extra damage. Self-explanatory. Dragonlord. It's just the normal Dragonlord layout. The only thing to note here is I took Fire, Soul of the Red Dragon, because this ability allows your Sunder attacks to strip a target's immunity to an element. So even though a lot of enemies are immune to fire, I can just strip it. And I took Fire because I tried to solo threats, and you want Fire, Resist, and Absorb for threats. But also because there's just a lot of fire enemies in the game, so this is good for defenses. And then obviously, as I said earlier, Dragonlord Capstone is a Sunder, so yeah, very good ability. Vistani, I just took it for the Double Strike, and then Ravager. The cores are nice, they give you a bunch of hit points and healing amp, as well as 10 melee power for these 2 cores here. Extraction boost is nice, temp HP here. Slaughter is interesting. If you crit, it does a lot of damage, and also if you crit, you get Laughter for 10 more melee power. This also allows you to gain full stacks of Fury for Furious Rage for 6 hit and damage, which is nice. The most interesting thing in the Ravager tree, though, is Cruel Cut, which has a 6-second cooldown and does 1 billion Constitution damage. In Epics, monsters have a 50% chance to avoid all stat damage, and also stat damage is reduced by Reaper difficulty. However, if you're playing on lower difficulties, like you're soloing or a raid or whatever, and you hit an enemy with the con damage, it does so much con damage on a single hit that they are guaranteed to be helpless. And while a lot of enemies are immune to stat damage like Reapers, this is still a very powerful ability because it's a bonus. You're actually pressing it because Dismember gives you 5 melee power permanently when you use Cruel Cut. So this is just a nice bonus. Like, occasionally you just crowd control like a caster or whatever. very strong ability. So that's the enhancements. This build will also be linked below in the build hub. Oh, whoops. Epic Destinies, this is why I want to talk about some of those feats. So, Shadow Dancer, no-brainer. Evasion, debuff, defense, defense, defense. Fort Bypass, double strike, yada yada, standard Shadow Dancer stuff. I went for Fury of the Wild with this build instead of Fate Singer for a couple reasons. One, I need the 10% offhand hit chance to get 100%. Double strike, because this build is not double strike capped, I need it every point. Primal Scream, and this gives 4 strength and con, which is a lot of stats. The heal here, a lot of stats. This right here gives 2% multiplicative damage when 2-weapon fighting, which I am. And then I took Quick Cutter, because it's just a really good Epic Strike. It also gives defense. Technically, the Fate Singer Epic Strike is more single target DPS, but everything else in the Fate Singer tree is worse, so I would say Fury of the Wild's the play. And then the main tree, Divine Crusader. Why did I not go Legendary Dreadnought? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, you can pick up Improved Sunder here for free, so that saves a feat. Number 2, Sunder Evil makes it so when I use Sunder or Improved Sunder, it does extra damage per character level, which is decent, but it also lowers enemies' AC by 10% and fortification by 25%. This 10% AC reduction stacks with Improved Sunder's 10% AC reduction, meaning that every enemy I hit with Improved Sunder gets their AC lowered by 20%. Which is a lot. Not to mention the Dragonlord tree makes Improved Sunder deal extra bonus damage. Improved Sunder starts doing an obscene amount of damage. Another good thing about Divine Crusader is up here, Purge the Wicked. We took the power critical feat to get this. It's just more Seeker. The Mantle is very good. It gives 3 to hit and damage here and 1W, which is a lot of damage. Also, we get some defense up here. Double Strike here. Hit and damage here. Defense is here. Immunity to durability damage here, saves, fortification, and then in the tier 5, Embodiment of Law, which we took not for the PRR but for this to get the effectively 16 imbue dice worth of damage. That's a lot of damage to leave on the table. We get vulnerability and critical and armor destruction stacking, which is good. We are using a favorite weapon because I took the Onatar's Blessing because we're using more hammers. And lastly, I took Beckon Divinity. Why did I take Beckon Divinity? Am I wiping a lot of my groups? No. The reason I took this was because this ability has a hidden 2% bonus double strike. That's why I took it. So, that's the only reason. I don't ever press this. I have yet to press this life. Just don't get in bad groups that wipe. That's really all I can say. That's the Epic Destiny, so we will look at the gear now. Yes, that is a lot of set augments. What were you, I don't know what you were expecting, but main hand. We have Audion, the Shattering Way. It has a lot of stuff on it. It's a big base damage rating, but this is arguably the best weapon in the game. It has Rupturing Echo, which is dripping with Sonic. A lot of damage dot. Blunt Trauma gives +1 crit multi and 19 to 20. Felling the Oak makes it so that way you trip enemies on Vorpal. And then it also Sealed a Mist, which I put on Dust for 35 PRR and debuff. So this is an amazing weapon with all the filigrees in it. My offhand, the build linked below is wrong because the weapons of Oozing Hunger aren't in the builder, but I'm using the Warhammer of the Oozing Hunger. Why am I using this? Couple reasons. One, Legendary Acidic Burn is another dripping with magma-like effect, so that means I now have 2. It also has Legendary Slime, which doesn't summon the oozes, but debuffs enemies' PR and MR by 10. This stacks with Dust, so that's a lot more debuffs. The other 2 effects are basically useless. But another advantage of this weapon is it's higher level than other weapons, so it has more W. It also has raid dice, which is nice. But probably the most interesting thing about it is if you just run the Demogorgon Saga a lot, then you get so many Duergar craft weapons and of the materials that you actually can just buy like 20 of these weapons and just curse them all until you get a good curse. I think I bought 10 of them before I got this curse, and I settled on that because the expansion has just come out and I didn't really have a stockpile yet. But these are very good weapons that are good if you want to curse farm. Highly recommend. Rest of the gear. Greaves of Season's Warding, because at the time I didn't have the Crown of Iron. I have it now, but Greaves of Season's Warding is just too good to pass up. Burrowing Claws from the new expansion gives Seeker and Insightful Seeker, which is awesome. Also, Quality Armor Piercing is nice. I have a Time Taken ring because I needed somewhere to put Deception and Stun DCs on. And the other 2 slots I just put on whatever to save augment slots. My artifact is none other than Baphomet's Reign. It gives 15% HP, which is huge. Legendary Deadly, which doesn't work right now. Hopefully it'll be fixed sometime, maybe. Unstoppable Staggering Blow admittedly doesn't stack with Felling the Oak, but nah. Main thing is Quality Sheltering, though, for the massive 11 PR and MRR. Even though I'm only getting 2 effects out of this item, it's still a fantastic item. Highly recommend. Bracers, I'm using the Wicked Spines. Just another crafted item. I needed some place to put Quality Constitution. It's under DCs, and in the Woeful slot, I'm supposed to have the, what is it? It's one of the Lamordia raid augments. It's the one that gives unconsciousness range and heals you. I don't have it slaughtered because I don't have enough mats from the raid to make it. It's really not that important. If you have the mats, go for it. It's not the end of the world. Armor is the Shadow Knight's Cruelty, one of the best armor pieces in the game. It gives Insightful Fortification, which is incredibly awesome. Revel and Blood Slashing is yet another dripping with magma-like effect. So now this build has 3 of them. It also gives permanent freedom of movement. And it doesn't come with Strength 16, but you get to craft on 16 to the ability score of your choice. So obviously I did Strength, that's my main stat. Absolutely fantastic armor piece. It's a rare drop, so good luck. But I highly recommend it. It might be the most powerful armor piece in the game for DPS. It's that good. Goggles, I have the Goggles of the Berserker. Bunch of good stuff on it. So, Enhanced Blood Rage is a very powerful proc, both defensively and offensively. Life Sealed gives both negative energy absorb as well as death block. And Ghostly gives me Incorporeal Mischance on Elite difficulty as well as Ghost Touch. Good item. My helm is the Helm of Eternal Day. For Undying 270, Insightful PRR 18, Quality Fort, Profane Life Force. It's just for defenses. I didn't know what other helm to slot here, and this is also my Insightful PRR item, so that's a good option. My necklace is the Dracolich's Eye. I put on Insightful Strength on it because I have Strength here and I have Quality Strength here, I think. Anyways, this item gives Profane Double Shot. The Double Shot also is Double Strikes. This gives 3% Double Strike. Insightful Deception per damage. I don't need Relentless Fury because it's on this. There's a couple overlapping gear stats, but it's not the end of the world. My trinket is the Bloody Boulder. This is why the Legendary Deadly is relevant, is because I have it on the Bloody Boulder as well. This also doesn't work, so I'm technically missing 3 damage right now, which isn't ideal. But this gives 6 more to hit, Improved Deception, which I need, and Quality Seeker, which is really awesome. That's all a bunch of good damage stats. My cloak is the Lamordian Stoic Cloak. And I have this because this gives me my Insightful MRR. So I have both Insightful MRR, Insightful PRR, Quality Sheltering here, and then I have a Defense Augment somewhere. So I get all the Shelterings, which is nice. But anyways, this item's awesome because it also gives Ram's Might for +2 strength and +2 damage. So that means that you just get more damage with this cloak, which is what you want. And I crafted on quality damage on this item. It only occurred to me today that I actually put on a Heroic False Life Augment in the Melancholic slot. Which, I'll be honest, I didn't even know you could put heroic augments in the legendary items. But hey, now we all know. You can do that. I just wasn't paying attention. Then the last item is the legendary 6-blade belt from the Terror of Demigorgon Dinara chest. This is an exceptionally good item. It gives all of your double strike on one item. And you also get to craft on quality ability score of your choice. So I chose Strength. And you can pause the video to look at the augments or just look at the build link below to see all the augments. But that's the gear set. That's the build. I don't really have anything else to say about the build itself. I will show you my bars. Compared to the Arcane Trickster, there's a lot more empty stuff here. Also, yes, I ran out of strength Yugo pots. I am going to cry myself to sleep tonight because I don't want to run Yugo Favor. I hate that, but oh well. Another nice... I didn't mention it earlier, but another nice thing about Duergar is Duergar as a race gets built in Viagra, so you just take your Viagra and you get big. So that's nice. Another thing, here's Sunder Soul, here are my Sunders. It's pretty standard. Just to note, I do have a prowess swap in whatever you want. I have it on this Seer's Spirit of the Sky. What else? I guess you could use Reckless Devotion. It's kind of shitty, though. I never use it, really. Dimension Door is nice. Here are my cloak swaps. So I have my LGS Intelligence, LGS Charisma skills. Then here's my Spell Absorb swap. I really don't have a lot to talk about. I mean, it's just a fucking Dragonlord. You play it like any other Dragonlord. It's not that complicated. I guess the trance recharges by using the roar, so you have to use the roar a lot. By the way, this is 110 DC on the roar without the trance, out of Reaper without pots. In Reaper, this goes to like over 140. Improved Sunder also is over 140, so you have no fail tactics easily. Not even close. It's perfect. It's way more than you need. So, tactics DCs aren't a problem. I don't think I have anything else to say about the build, so... Yep, that is the Pure 20 Duergar Dragonlord 2-weapon fighting DPS build. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. One last thing, I just wanted to bring up that currently the channel is approaching 500 subscribers, and I don't normally ask people to subscribe, but for once I'm going to ask. Please subscribe if you haven't already, because I have some very, very fun things planned for 500 subs, including but not limited to opening up the Discord server that I have been planning, that has been outlined in the sub goals document. I also am hopefully going to have a prize code giveaway courtesy of SSG, although that may or may not happen. We'll have to see. And I'm also planning on having a 500 subs video. That will be a special video that will not be commentated. It will just be, I guess, a trip down memory lane of where I started and what it's come to. So that's the plan for 500 subs. I also plan on completely redoing the Patreon and also taking a look at the YouTube memberships and redoing that as well. But anyways, we're not there yet. So again, if you want to support me, please subscribe. It means the world to me. And yes, I do read every single comment. Every single comment I read. I don't respond to all of them, but I read them all. And I appreciate every single person who messages me on Thrain or on the preview server or whatever and says that they love my content. Thank you. You guys mean the world to me. Thank you all for watching and for being here. This was the latest build. It will be linked below. I shall smell you later.